Question is, shall the bill pass finally? On that question, the Speaker recognizes the lady from Warren County, Ms. Rapp.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've heard Roe versus Wade stated several times during the debate this afternoon. I was a young person during Roe versus Wade. Didn't really know what an abortion was. For the first time in my life, I heard the term fetus, which we, before that time, used the word baby. So we had a lot of new words coined at the time of Roe versus Wade. Heard a lot of talk about back alley abortions. And certainly as a young person, it was very disconcerting to hear the arguments of the day. But I have a quote from Roe versus Wade. And here's the quote. "The state has a legitimate interest in seeing to it that abortion, like any other medical procedure, is performed under circumstances that ensure maximum safety for the patient. This interest obviously extends at least to the performing physician and his staff, to the facilities involved, to the availability of aftercare, and to adequate provision for any complication or emergency that might arise. The prevalence of high mortality rates of illegal abortion mills strengthens rather than weakens the state's interest in regulating the conditions under which abortions are performed." So I think it's kind of hard to argue, Mr. Speaker, that the state does not have a responsibility to provide maximum safety for the patient. Women in our state have a right to expect clean, sterile facilities for medical procedures. Women in our state deserve to be treated with up-to-date equipment and technology, not equipment that is dust-covered, taped, or simply not in working order. They deserve to be treated by trained, professional staff. Argument for cost, Mr. Speaker, can never outweigh, never, the cost of the life of your mother, your wife, your daughter, your sister. And yes, my argument is a pro-life statement to keep women safe in this state. Staff also in our state, wherever they work, deserve clean working conditions, especially in medical facilities where we expect certain standards. None of us would expect our staff to keep their lunches in refrigerators that are stuffed with bags of body parts, as in the Gosnell case. A previous speaker stated, Mr. Speaker, that we should not be running legislation because we find one case where atrocities were committed. That's not how we should do legislation. But, Mr. Speaker, I would like to remind my colleagues who were here last session how we ran a bill for puppy mills and dog kennels. Why? Because we found a couple cases around the state where dogs were being mistreated. So we passed legislation, Mr. Speaker, that demanded that our puppy mills and our dog kennels in this state invest more money to keep animals in a more protected environment. I don't think we should expect any less for our women in this state. We need to ensure in Pennsylvania, Mr. Speaker, what the Supreme Court stated for the protection of women. Again, the state has a legitimate interest in seeing to it that abortion, like any other medical procedure, is performed under circumstances that ensure the maximum safety for the patient. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.